What's going on, Not Move Nation? Welcome to the Not Move podcast. I'm here with JB Sport Talk. We're going to break down the Monday Night Football game tonight between the Dallas Cowboys and Las
Yes,
Vegas
sir.
Raiders. Thank you to the sponsors.
Damn
Bet
Raiders.
you. Thank you to the sponsors. BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. Also, thank you to the supporters, subscribers, followers. We really appreciate you. Good morning, Ivan. In case I didn't mention it, today is November 17th at 10:06 a.m. Eastern Time. So, yeah, we have the Dallas Cowboys and Las Vegas Raiders tonight. The Las Vegas Raiders are 1-0 all time against the Dallas Cowboys. The Raiders are 7-6 all time against the Dallas Cowboys. Geno Smith has a 0-1 career record against Dallas. Pete Carroll has a 9-11 career record against Dallas. Javonte Williams, the running back for Dallas, has a 2-5 career record against the Raiders. The Cowboys are favored by 3.5. The over/under is 50.5. I didn't really see any big-time injuries in this one. Looks like CeeDee Lamb's available. Just pretty much all the guys for both teams. Now, I'm sure there are some injuries here and there, but the big-time offensive injuries, I don't see anything. Overall, I give the Cowboys a pretty good-sized passing advantage. I give the Cowboys a decent-sized rushing advantage. A slight third down conversion advantage, a slight red zone conversion advantage, a slight red zone attempts per game advantage, a big sacks on the quarterback advantage. JB, why do I feel like the Dallas Cowboys squander this game away? And if they do win, why do I feel like they're not going to win by more than 3 points? I mean, are you in that same bandwagon with me?
Because it's the Cowboys, boy. Man, I don't know. It really because, dude, it is because it's the Cowboys and the Raiders. Anything could happen with these two. It's Monday night, prime time. This is just the type of game that the Cowboys could squander away, and that the Vikings could actually catch lightning in a bottle and win.
Oh, Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders could. The Cowboys could squander this one away. This is just that type of year. We're about to be at the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl Thanksgiving, so we know that they can't muster up too many wins to there because we know that they're probably gonna win that one, right? Like that's just what the Cowboys do. That's their game,
Yeah.
To be honest with you though, I don't see the Raiders winning. Geno Smith is a horrible definition of a quarterback. Pete Carroll needs to go back to retirement, away from that sideline at least. And Tom Brady needs to get out of ownership or maybe get a little bit more grip on it because the Raiders just suck. They're trash. Lines at when.
Yeah, I'm thinking that line's just too big, man.
Yeah.
I could see the Cowboys losing this game. And if they do win, I don't think that they win by 4+ points. Man. And I was looking at what Dallas averages on the road, their points per game on the road, Ivan, and what Las Vegas is allowing points per game at home, and vice versa, what the Raiders are averaging per game at home, how many points, and how many Dallas is allowing on the road. And, I came up with the Cowboys at 22.85 points tonight and the Raiders at 25.35. So I got the Raiders just based on that equation, winning this game by 2 or 3 points. Both of these teams have the same record against the spread this season. They're both 4-5 against the spread. And, the over-under you mentioned 50.5. They've scored a combined total of 51+ points in 3 out of the last 10 meetings. So more times than not, out of the last 10 meetings, it's gone under that total. The Cowboys, however, are 6-3 to the over this season. The Raiders are 3-6 to the over. So, I mean, if I were to lean one way, I'd be leaning towards Raiders plus the 3.5 and under 50.5 total points. Ivan says, like, I know they both give up points, but let's be serious. Yeah. What do you expect, JB? Do you think it goes over the 50.5? Do you think this is going to be a high-scoring game, low-scoring game?
If it's a high scoring game, it's going to be a high scoring game for Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they might, I'm not going to, the Raiders might get into the end zone. I mean, I say that the Raiders score like, I don't know, 14 to 17 points there, Bob. But I don't see them getting over 20. I don't see them breaking 20. And I think the Cowboys will score. I mean, yeah. I mean, I can see the game getting into the 40s overall. I can see it. Because the Raiders don't. I mean, look what Kansas City did to the Raiders. I'm not saying that Cowboys are equal to a team as the Chiefs. What I'm saying is that you guys got that high power offense. So let's look out for that.
Yeah, so let's dive into that a little bit here. Some player props and whatnot. So I mentioned that the Cowboys have a pretty good sized passing advantage, but I found myself looking up just as many receiving props, maybe even more for the Raiders side of the ball than the Cowboys, because the Cowboys pass defense is terrible.
Well, the Raiders just got rid of Jacoby Myers. What do you
Yep.
mean? Who do the Raiders have besides nobody? They have Brock Bowers.
Oh, they got Bowers, but they got Tyler Lockett now too.
Yeah,
And
there's a reason why Seattle got rid of him.
yeah.
Guy's not so
Now let's talk.
locked in.
Let's talk about the Seahawks side of the ball, or not the Seahawks. It feels like the Seahawks, Geno and Tyler Lockett. Let's talk about the Raiders' offensive side of the ball real quick. Their passing offense. They ranked 27th in passing yards per game at the beginning of the week, and the Cowboys ranked 29th in passing yards allowed per game at the beginning of the week. So a bad passing offense going up against a bad passing defense. The Raiders call a higher percentage of passing plays relative to the other teams in the league. They rank 14th in passing play percentage. So, that had me looking into Geno Smith over under 233.5 passing yards. The Cowboys have allowed the fourth most passing yards to quarterbacks at the start of the week. And Geno has gone over that in 3 out of 9 games this season. He's only had 200-plus passing yards in 4 out of 9 games this season. But he has played one career game against the Cowboys, which he had 334 passing yards, 3 touchdown passes, 1 interception. He loves to throw interceptions. And 6 rushing yards for 1 rushing touchdown. I was also looking at his turf versus grass splits, and it seems like a lot of the years that he's played throughout in the NFL,
Turf.
it seems like he has more yards per completion on turf than grass. This game's being played on grass. What do you think, JB? Do you think Geno gets over the 233.5 passing yards? Do you think he has 200-plus passing yards?
No. I go under.
You're going under on that one. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
I don't think he has it at all. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm trying. Maybe I'm giving Dallas a little too much credit on the defensive side of the ball, but I think the Raiders are that bad. I know they're that bad. I just don't see it. What they've done with the rest of the league. I mean, the Raiders have been shut down, and the Chiefs. They scored 7 points against the Broncos. Great defense. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. The I haven't seen anything. I mean, the very first play of the game for the Raiders of the year is Genty getting stuffed. Two rushes, -5 yards. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've watched these Raiders since literally first snap of the year, and it has not looked good. And I think Dallas. I mean, Dallas does like to play down to their level, down to their opponent's levels, but I mean, dude, I think Dak can take advantage of their defense. I think they can take advantage of the interceptions, the lack of quarterback play, offensive play out there in Las Vegas. I just don't see a good day. I see it being a total domination by the Cowboys.
The statistics here really don't persuade me to go one way or another on Geno's passing yards. But I do think that if there is a game that he goes over, the 200 plus, 233.5, this is the perfect game for him. And then, let's talk about let's see what Ivan says here.
Right.
Ivan says this game is weird. LOL. Because we expect Cowboys to win and dominate, but we know better. We know the Cowboys will flop on any given day with any given team, 100%, man, especially in a primetime game,
Like I said at the very beginning, prime time. This is the type of game that the Cowboys could squander away and lose. But and maybe this is. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Maybe the Cowboys squander away and the Raiders just plays just a little bit better than they have every other week.
Yep.
Just good enough. It may be.
I mean, this Cowboys defense is terrible.
Yeah,
so
it's not great, but
if the Raiders can't get it done here, man, I mean, when will they ever? Anyways, going back to Tyler Lockett, the Cowboys have allowed the 6th most receiving yards to wide receivers before the week started. And when I checked this morning, Tyler Lockett's over-under on receiving yards is 27.5. He's only gone over that in 2 out of 9 games this season, but he's only played 1 game with the Raiders this season, in which he had 44 yards, which was a team high. So he has gone over that receiving line in his only career game with the Raiders this season. They played the Broncos. So if he got those receiving yards against the Broncos, I mean, I feel like this is a decent spot for him to do so tonight. He had 5 receptions in that game, which was a team high as well. So he led the team in receiving yards in that game against the Broncos. 5 receptions, which he led the team. He led the team in target share with 6 total targets against the Broncos in that game. He's gone over this line in 5 out of 6 career games against Dallas. I think this is a good spot for Tyler Lockett to go over these receiving yards. I like this prop. What do you think, JB? And I know him and Geno have some chemistry, so it's not like, just some random guys, from a different team is coming on. These guys have experience together. JB, do you think Lockett has 28 plus receiving yards?
I mean, he looks like their only option besides Bowers. You got to be able to get more than 20 yards receiving, right?
Yeah.
You got to be able to get more than 25, right? Like, usually you're looking at players ending games with what, 30 plus, 40 plus ish. I mean, maybe less. I don't know. Maybe this. Yeah, I see that you could probably get it. I like it. I do like it. Jacoby Myers being gone. Here's Tyler Lockett. He's their only other option.
I feel like he can pick up some big gains in this game. I feel like he can go over that in 1 catch. I'm trying to find the games where he's had 20 plus or 40 plus receiving yard catches, and I don't think he's had any so far this season. But, I mean, I think he's capable of it. So I would really be looking for if you guys are interested, I've noticed that the Dallas Cowboys have allowed 9 40-plus yard receiving gains this season, which is tied for second worst in the NFL. So if you're looking for that big play, I'm actually seeing Trey Tucker ranks 37th in yards per catch. So maybe that's the way to go here. Trey Tucker, whoever is that deep threat for the Raiders, I feel like has a great chance of catching a 20-plus, 40-plus yard gain tonight. I'm looking at Trey Tucker's statistics. He has 7 20-plus yard receiving gains this season, 1 40-plus. So just whoever you guys feel like the deep threat is. I feel like it's Lockett, but I could be wrong. Maybe how old is Tyler Lockett now? Maybe his
legs have left him in Seattle. They're seaboard.
So do you think Trey Tucker has a better chance for the long ball here?
Yeah, probably. I mean, like I said, from what I've seen, Tyler Lockett was just catching a lot of like mid passes. It wasn't nothing deep. Wasn't burning nobody. He's.
And I've noticed Brock Bowers. He's had 3 20-plus yard receiving gains this season. And all was actually against. Never mind. He's had 6 20-plus yard receiving gains, 0 40-plus yard receiving gains. We'll talk about his props here in just a moment. But, I see Trey Tucker over under 42.5 receiving yards. He's gone over that in 4 out of 9 games this season. He's had 30-plus receiving yards in 6 out of 9 games this season. He's never played against the Cowboys. So, I'm going to have to lean towards Lockett being the guy tonight. As far as the wide receiving corp goes, that's my favorite wide receiver tonight for the Seahawks. And then, Bowers. The Cowboys haven't, before the week started, they were not specifically great or terrible at defending against receiving yards or receptions allowed to tight ends. Brock Bowers over under 74.5 receiving yards. He's only gone over that in 2 out of 6 games this season. And he's never played against the Cowboys throughout his career. So that's really limited information that we're working with. Also, his over-unders on receptions is 6.5. He's only gone over that in 1 out of 6 games this season. But he's had 5-plus receptions in 4 out of 6 games this season. So for those of you who like to do the alternate lines, I think doing the 5-plus receptions is what I'm feeling most comfortable here with, in regards with the Bowers prop. What do you expect from Brock Bowers tonight, JB? It sounds like, you're feeling like it's really their only true weapon in the passing game.
It really is their only true weapon in the passing game, but he's been, fighting battles with injuries and whatnot this year. They rode him last year a little much, but I need Brock Bowers to go up this week. He's in my fantasy league. I think he could eat fairly well on the Dallas Cowboys, facing them over the middle and whatnot, matchup versus them pretty well. If I believe the Cowboys are not too great at defending tight ends. I could be totally wrong, but no. I like his success.
Yeah, they're not specifically great nor terrible at
right. They're like mid pack, and I think he's like. I think his his stardom or whatnot, outweighs the ranking, the who they have over there in Dallas, and I think that's what puts him on the top. I think it's like a Travis Kelsey situation. Like I said, when he came out, I compared it. That's who I compared him to, man. Dude's awesome.
Ivan has a question here about Turpin over under 1.5 receptions. The Raiders, Dallas is a pass heavy team. Dallas calls a very, very high percentage of passing plays. Before the week started, they ranked 5th in that category. The Raiders ranked 16th in passing yards allowed per game and 14th in rushing yards allowed per game. So the Raiders, relative to the other teams in the league, are weaker against that pass in regards to yards allowed than the rushing yards allowed per game. So I think that falls right into the Cowboys' strengths here. And the Raiders have allowed the 7th most receptions to wide receivers before the week started, which is what Turpin is. And he's gone over the 1.5 reception line in 5 out of 7 games this season. And he's had 1+ reception in every game this season. So if you have, that option to take it at 1+, you're looking at a 100% success rate for this season. But we're talking about 1.5. So I'm looking at the most recent game the Cowboys played against the Cardinals, right? And in that game, CeeDee Lamb played, Pickens played, Ferguson. So there were, pretty much a fully healthy Cowboys team. Let me go look at one other thing here. Was Tolbert in that game? No, but he was in the game. Okay, in this one. Okay, so I'm just trying to see, what Turpin does when the Cowboys are at full strength, right? And against the Cardinals in their most recent game, Turpin had 2 receptions, 3 targets for 10 yards. So that's cutting it close, right? But I'm looking at this game week 1 against the Eagles, and Turpin also had 2 receptions in that game, only 2 targets though. So I think it's cutting it really close.
Yeah.
I think he gets. Oh, I have to lean towards him getting over that tonight, but I think it's real close. And something else we could do is maybe go see what games did Turpin not go over that 1.5 line, and maybe we can find out a reason why he didn't go over that line. While I'm looking up that information, JB, what do you expect from Genty tonight, running back for the Raiders?
Um,
The Cowboys, just so you know, in case you didn't know, this goes for anybody. The Cowboys ranked 28th before the week started.
Oh my
They ranked
God.
28th in rushing yards allowed per game. They
Yeah.
have the 9th most rushing yards to running backs.
Okay, but where do the Raiders rank in rushing? Like,
29th rushing
yeah,
yards per game before the week started.
yeah, bro. Like, it's such an evenly matched game. It's crazy, you know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just. With that being said, them being evenly matched, I'm gonna say that the Dallas Cowboys got a little bit better at stopping the run, right? That's what they were aiming at, right? Getting rid of Micah Parsons, right? That was the whole point of it, right? They couldn't stop the run. That Kenny Clark threw him in the middle. Now, supposedly, they can stop the run now, right? So I'm going to go that he doesn't have that great of a day. Cowboys stop the run. That's the reason why they did what they did. So I'm just gonna go with it. Genty doesn't have a good day.
Sounds good, man. And I'll talk about Genty here in just a minute. I just want to keep going on here with Ivan's question, and I'm looking at these games with Turpin, Ivan, in which he did not get the 2+ receptions, and one of the games he was only targeted one time. The Cowboys ended up winning that game by 22 points. So if that is the case tonight, where the Cowboys run away with the game, maybe he only sees that one target again. So if you're thinking that the Cowboys are going to blow them out of the water, that might be problematic. And then the other game, the Cowboys got blown out, but Turpin's still in that game against the Broncos, which the Broncos have a great defense. Against the Broncos, he had 5 targets. He only caught 1 though. I'm also looking at the catch rate on the Cowboys. Jake Ferguson leads the team in catch rate, 85%. So when balls are flying his way, he's doing a great job at catching. And then Turpin, his catch rate 68%, which is right there with George Pickens. So I feel like he goes over that one, Ivan. Thank you for the question there. Genty touchdown, I think, says Ivan. Genty touchdown, I think the Raiders only hope to keep this close. And, of course, there has to be defense. Yeah, so, Genty has gone over the 63.5 rushing total in 3 out of 9 games this season. If we took that down to 60+, he's gone over that in 5 out of 9 games this season. He's never played a career game against the Cowboys, so it's tougher for me to gauge, anytime touchdown scores when they don't have any career history against that team that they're going up against. But what I'll say about the Cowboys is they've done a good job at limiting rushing touchdowns to running backs this season. They've only allowed 7, which looks like it's a little bit above league average. And then receiving touchdowns allowed to running backs, they've allowed 3, which there's not a lot of separation between teams that have allowed 0 and teams that have allowed 6, but the Cowboys are kind of in the middle, near the bottom of the league in that regard. 3 receiving touchdowns to running backs. And when I'm looking at Genty here, he's had 3 receiving touchdowns this season. So I think, that is a bonus here. I mean, I think there's a pretty good chance that Genty sees the end zone here tonight. And then, we can go look at some other maybe defensive vulnerabilities for the Cowboys to see if the Raiders are going to try to, exploit a different weakness here from the Cowboys. They've allowed the most wide receiver touchdowns this season. The Cowboys have. And tight end touchdowns. The Cowboys have actually done a good job at limiting the tight end touchdowns. Quarterback rushing touchdowns. The Cowboys have allowed the second most. So I think, Genty is up there on my favorite anytime touchdown score list. I think Geno's even worth consideration. But maybe a Raider who sees some red zone targets, a wide receiver that sees some red zone targets. I mean, once again, I think Lockett could even break out for a long touchdown in this one. But if we're talking about red zone here, Bowers does lead this team in red zone target share. I'm specifically looking for a wide receiver. Genty ranks 2nd on this team in red zone target share. And then it's Trey Tucker with 5. So that's what I was really looking for. I heard you mention Michael Mayer, Ivan. He's had 4 this season. So, I think, Trey Tucker might be the guy who I'm thinking has the best chance to score a touchdown in this one if the Raiders are in the red zone. for a long touchdown pass. Like I was saying, like Lockett, I'm thinking, man. I feel like, and back, let me go back to Lockett real quick because I didn't elaborate on his anytime touchdown career against the Cowboys. He's had a touchdown in 2 out of 6 career games against Dallas. He even had a 3 touchdown game in one of those career games. So at least we have some history to look with here with Lockett. We don't have any history with these other guys, but man, Lockett has 1 red zone target this season with the Raiders. I wonder if that's with the Raiders or if that's throughout the entire season. I want to know if they targeted him in the red zone in that last game. I feel like that might take a little bit too much.
I think they did.
And
I feel like they did.
I can look that up real quick. Against the Broncos, JB, what are you thinking about Geno Smith? His over/under on rushing yards is 8.5. Do you think he picks up 9+ while I'm looking up this to see if they targeted
Geno Smith 9+
Lockett in the red zone? Yeah, what do you think about Geno tonight? Do you think he gets a little mobile?
Yeah, I think that's it. Like only thing he does. Yeah, that's what he does. Is he just takes off running. I've seen him get some yards. I've seen him get sacked a lot, but I think he'll be fine.
I am not really finding if they targeted him in the red zone or not. I think that is some good information. I feel like it'll take me a little bit of time to look that up, but if you guys are interested in looking that up, I feel like that could be an important statistic. If they did target him in the red zone or not, Tyler Lockett in that game against Denver. Yeah, those would be the guys that I'd be looking for this Raiders team: Trey Tucker and or Tyler Lockett. If I had to go with one, I really like Lockett. I like his chemistry with Geno, and that's who I'm gonna have to lean with to get an anytime touchdown for the Raiders. Once again, I think some other considerations. Geno Smith had a rushing touchdown in his only career game against Dallas. Now, I don't think Geno Smith has one this season. He does not. But, the Cowboys, like I mentioned, they've allowed 4 quarterback rushing touchdowns this season, which is the second highest in the NFL. So I think, the fact that Geno has had one against the Cowboys in the past, and the Cowboys are weak against that, it is worth consideration there. And then, Genty, we talked about him a little bit, but I'd be really looking for those wide receivers first, and then I think Geno, I think the odds would be pretty sweet on that, and then Genty, but let's see. Ivan says, I see Cowboys don't do well with wide receivers. Harrison just had 96 yards versus Cowboys. I actually laddered him. Who's good receivers to roll with the Raiders, Lockett or Trey Tucker? I'm thinking it's going to be Lockett. They played against Denver, right? And Lockett was in that game. That was his only game that he played against Denver, and he led the team in receiving yards, receptions, and target share. He has chemistry with Geno, and he's gone over his receiving line, 27.5 in 5 out of 6 career games against the Cowboys. So that's really who I'm looking for tonight. Here is Tyler Lockett for the Raiders. But I don't think Trey Tucker is a terrible consideration. Now, he his over-under is 42.5 receiving yards, which he's gone over in 4 out of 9 games this season. But, if we got that at 30-plus receiving yards, he's gone over that in 6 out of 9 games this season. So, I know Thornton over under 11.5. There's just not much information I have with Thornton. He's gone over that in 3 out of 7 games this season. So, yeah, I think my favorite player, my favorite wide receiver, my favorite player tonight, really, for the Raiders is Tyler Lockett. But JB doesn't seem to be too high on him. He thinks his better years are behind him. But, I feel like even if they are behind him, this is a good game for him to produce some quality numbers. Michael Wilson had 60 yards, Harrison 96 yards, Sutton 67, Troy Franklin 89. Wide receivers should eat today, says Ivan. Yeah, man. Ivan says, I love Ferguson for Dallas. He for sure going in my slips. So the Raiders, now I don't want to steer you away. You called out Bryce Young yesterday, Ivan. I think his over-under on passing yards was like 180? I think he threw for somewhere near 450. And I didn't think, it was if I remember correctly, I didn't think it was a great spot, right? He was going up against the Atlanta number 1 pass defense in regards to passing yards allowed per game. So I don't know, how you really called that, but that was nice, man. And I'm feeling the same way about this game here with Ferguson. Not too high on Ferguson today, simply because the Raiders have allowed the 5th fewest receiving yards to tight ends, the 3rd fewest receptions to tight ends. 448. That's unbelievable. Against the number 1 pass defense. So, but yeah, man, I'm concerned about that with Ferguson tonight, with that Raiders tight end defense. That's actually been one of the promising things for the Raiders this season. And then Ferguson's never played against the Raiders, so I didn't look at the anytime touchdown. I didn't look at his player prop at all, to be honest with you, simply because the Raiders were good against defending against that tight end position. But, I'll keep an eye out for it tonight, man. And I was real surprised about the Bryce Young call out yesterday too, man. Good job, Ivan. It's prime time betters. Ferguson different under the lights. That's good information to know, man. Jake Ferguson game log. Let's just go take a look. I'm gonna try to see. They played Philadelphia in that primetime game to open the season. He had 5 receptions, 23 yards, 0 touchdowns. I'm trying to think of another primetime game that they've had against the Packers, right? 7 receptions, 40 receiving yards, and a touchdown. What did the Packers rank with? How are they defending against tight ends this season? Looks like maybe a slightly above average here. Yes, looks like in regards to yardage allowed, and then tight end or touchdowns, Packers about middle of the pack. So I think Ferguson's going up against a tougher defense, tight end defense, than he played against in that game against the Packers. It looks like maybe not as tough as the Eagles, which he didn't do good against the Eagles. Eagles are real good at limiting tight end receiving yards and touchdowns this season. He did not do good. The Raiders, I feel like, their tight end defense is closer to Philadelphia than it is to the Packers. And so I don't see it, man, but I'm going to keep my eye out and see if you're right again there. What was this? Monday night against the Cardinals, 5 receptions, 50 yards, no touchdowns. So what that was last week. or 2 weeks ago, because the Cowboys are coming off a bye, and that's another thing to take into consideration. JB, how much do you take that into account here, that the Cowboys are coming off of a bye week and have extra time to prepare for this game?
Man, I used to quite a bit up until last night. Chiefs had 2 weeks to come out and be prepared for the Broncos, and they came out flat. So, couldn't tell you, man, anymore. That
Yeah,
I used to think it was pretty big. His streak is still pretty prevalent, but I mean, you got a very important game, a divisional opponent, all this stuff, and it just doesn't. So I don't know. Maybe with Schottenheimer being a new coach, he'll take it more serious. So it'll probably work in their favor better, more rested, better healed. You know what I mean? More
Yeah.
prepared, more time to look at film. So it'll probably work in their favor.
I do want to talk about a couple more Raiders props here. Geno Smith over under 8.5. I was asking you about that earlier, JB. The Cowboys have allowed the 7th most rushing yards to quarterbacks this season. That was before the week started. Geno Smith has gone over that in 4 out of 9 games this season. And if you can take that down to 5+ rushing yards, he's gone over that in 7 out of 9 games this season. He doesn't have a rushing touchdown this season, like I mentioned. He did not go over that line in his only career game against the Cowboys. He had 6 rushing yards. But he did have a rushing touchdown in that game. I already mentioned the Cowboys have allowed the 2nd most rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks this season. And when I was looking at his splits earlier, it seems like he averaged more yards per carry at home than the road throughout his career. And they're playing at home tonight, so I think that's advantageous for Geno. And then Genty, I had to look into his receiving yards and or receptions a little bit, because the Cowboys have allowed the 2nd most receiving yards to running backs and the 9th most receptions to running backs this season. Genty over under 16.5 receiving yards. He's only gone over that in 3 out of 9 games this season. But he's had 10+ receiving yards in 5 out of 9 games this season. And he's averaging more yards per catch on turf than grass this season. But he has had 3 receiving touchdowns on grass and 0 receiving touchdowns on turf. Once again, this game's on grass. He's also averaged more yards per catch at home than on the road. He also has 3 receiving touchdowns at home and 0 on the road this season. So that just elaborates, with what Ivan was saying about Genty anytime touchdown. That is an added benefit. The Cowboys haven't been terrible at allowing running backs to get into the end zone, but they seem to be somewhat vulnerable to running backs receiving touchdowns. And, as I mentioned earlier, Genty, red zone target share, I think he was right there, right under Bowers. Bowers had 8, Genty has 7. And Genty has had 3 receiving touchdowns at home this season. So, that's another added benefit of playing Genty in that one tonight for the anytime touchdown. But the receptions, he's gone over that in the 2.5 reception line in 4 out of 9 games this season. He's had 2+ receptions in 7 out of 9 games this season. I would feel more comfortable, taking it at 2+. But obviously there might be a price to pay on that in regards to that juice. But if you're, taking alternate lines and stacking those plays, and I can see, I'd feel more comfortable with that 2+ there. But let's go ahead and talk about some Cowboy props here. Let's see. Ivan says, I'm an outlier. I'm on outlier. Dak Prescott, 10.5 rushing yards seems like a good play. Let's go check that out. I didn't specifically look into that prop because the Raiders before the week started, allowed the 10th fewest rushing yards to quarterbacks, but that doesn't mean that there is not good value just because a team is good at defending against a specific position. Dak Prescott has had 34 rushing yards, 31 rushing yards in his last 2 games. And, I just kind of want to get a feel of what Denver allows to quarterback rushing yards. They've allowed the 5th fewest, and Dak Prescott had a good game rushing against them. And then who else was I looking at here? Kind of lost my. Let me close some of these tabs. Dak Prescott rushing yards. I was looking at Arizona and how they defended against the run. They've allowed the 3rd fewest rushing yards to quarterbacks this season, and Dak went over that line. So, I mean, so what happened in those games? Dallas against Arizona, Dallas against the Broncos. So Dallas got rolled by the Broncos. They lost by 10 against Arizona. And then against Washington, Dallas rolled over Washington. And it doesn't look like Dak got there. He did not. I'm just trying to see the games where he has gone over that this year. The Jets and the Giants, he also went over that line. And so what happened in those games? Jets, they won by 5. Giants, they won by 3 in a close game. So, I think I would look maybe into his grass versus turf splits too. Dak Prescott game log takes me to ESPN.com. Looking at the splits here. He's averaging more rushing yards per carry at home than on the road this season. He's playing on the road tonight. I'm just seeing if there's like anything that is consistent with his home and away splits. Doesn't seem like it. Let me go look at the turf versus grass splits. What are you thinking, JB? Does Dak Prescott get, what does Ivan say here? 11 plus rushing yards tonight? How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, man, I don't know, to be honest with you. Dak's not really that runner no more, really since his injury. He's just been stand back and pass. But I can see if like Max comes in there and he can take off just like, 1 or 2 times, get that 11, 12 yards. I think their defense is that bad.
I think something else that we have to look at is Dak Prescott versus Raiders history. I'm not seeing really any consistencies with his turf versus grass splits or his home versus road splits. So let me just go look at his history here. Dak Prescott versus the Raiders back in 2021. He had only 3 rushing yards on 1 carry, and then he played them back in 2017. Had 32 rushing yards and a touchdown. I don't feel confident enough to go either way on that one, to be completely honest with you. We can also look at, the Raiders have done good at limiting those quarterback rushing yards this season, but Dak, I mean, He's had 30-plus rushing yards against 2 teams that have also done good against defending against that. So I'm a little confused on that, to be honest with you. The Raiders have allowed 3 rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks this season, though. And the fact that Prescott has a rushing touchdown against the Raiders makes me feel somewhat okay about, maybe an anytime touchdown for Dak.
I feel better with the rushing yards than the touchdown with that.
Running backs also have good numbers against the Raiders. Seeing that's
it's all around bad. This is where you pad your stats and all that shit.
Running backs. I mean, I'm seeing that the Raiders have allowed the 11th fewest rushing yards to running backs this season. What about touchdowns? Touchdowns. And Ivan, we if you're looking at fantasy.nfl.com, which is what I look at. I don't know exactly what you're looking at, but what that is doing is it's not on a per game basis. It's the yardage and touchdowns accumulated throughout the entire season. So, before the week started, the Raiders allowed the 11th fewest rushing yards to running backs. Why are they sitting at 8th fewest now? Maybe this thing just doesn't update quick enough. I don't know, but or maybe I had a typo. What about rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks? 10th fewest. I don't know, but I'm gonna have to keep up to date with that. Rushing yards allowed, receiving yards. Okay, that makes sense. Rushing yards allowed to running backs. I mean, this season, man, I'm seeing that they've allowed the 8th fewest, rushing yards to running backs, receiving yards to running backs. I haven't seen that they've allowed a whole lot. Rushing touchdowns allowed to running backs. They've allowed 9. And then receiving to running backs, they've allowed 0 receiving touchdowns to running backs. So I'm not necessarily seeing those same numbers that you're looking at, but that doesn't necessarily mean that either of us are right or wrong. I'm just curious to where you may be getting that information from. But here's what I'll say about Javonte Williams, anytime touchdown. He's only scored a touchdown in 2 out of 7 career games against the Raiders. So I'm a little worried about him maybe getting into the end zone here tonight. I did see that before the week started at the source that I was looking at, the Raiders allowed the 11th most receiving yards to wide receivers and the 7th most receptions allowed to wide receivers. My bad, you're right. It's on the unders. Okay, yeah, no worries, man. So it looks like the Raiders are vulnerable to those receiving yards and receptions to wide receivers. We already talked about Turpin a little bit. On really, the lines that I saw this morning that were set for the Cowboys almost seem too good to be true. CeeDee Lamb's gone over the 88.5 receiving line in 3 out of 5 games this season. He's had 85 plus receiving yards in 4 out of 5 games this season, and he's never played against the Raiders. His receptions line is at 6.5, which he's gone over in 4 out of 5 games this season. He's had 5 plus receptions in all 5 games this season. So, I mean, I think those are good props to look at. And then Pickens, over under 65.5 receiving yards. He's gone over that in 7 out of 9 games this season. He's gone over that line in 4 straight games. He's had 55 plus receiving yards in 8 out of 9 games this season. He's gone over that line in 1 out of 3 career games against the Raiders. George Pickens has had 53 plus receiving yards in all 3 career games that he's played against the Raiders. He had a touchdown in 1 out of 3 of those games as well. The receptions for Pickens over under 4.5. He's gone over that in 6 out of 9 games this season. He's also done that in 2 straight games. He's had 4 plus receptions in 7 out of 9 games this season. He's gone over that line in 1 out of 3 career games against the Raiders. He's also had 4 plus receptions in 2 out of 3 career games against the Raiders. So, it's pretty rare that I see this where they set the line and the history is so good. The the current history is good. The current season data, 7 out of 9 games, Pickens has had 66 plus receiving yards. Something seems fishy about this. Like I said, these are all good statistics. And if you want to, I mean, I think Lamb, Pickens, Turpin, all of them, based on the statistics, have a good chance of going over receiving yards and receptions today. All the ones that I've listed. 88.5 receiving yards for Lamb, 65.5 for Pickens, 15.5 for Turpin, 6.5 receptions for Lamb, 4.5 receptions for Pickens, 1.5 over for Turpin. I mean, all of those seem like good options. Yeah, Geno Smith for an interception is always in play, says Ivan. But he likes Dak for an interception since 10 out of 12. 3 out of 4 QBs have thrown an interception versus the Raiders. Yeah, we can also go look at, Geno loves to throw interceptions. Team interceptions. Who do you think,
Pretty
JB?
sure he leads the league in interceptions.
Who do you feel like has a better chance to get an interception here tonight? Dallas, Raiders, or both? Do you think both of these quarterbacks throw an interception tonight?
I think, yeah, they're both pretty pass happy. But then again, I definitely see the Raiders throwing a pick. Absolutely, Geno someone.
Doesn't Deron Bland for the Cowboys, cornerback, right? Doesn't he have a lot of pick sixes? I'm pretty sure he's like creeping up on like the all-time pick six leaders list or something. Maybe that was just for a season. Have you heard anything about that, JB? Deron Bland pick six record?
No.
Okay, he holds the single season record for pick sixes with 5 in 2023. As of October 2025, he has the most career pick sixes by any player since 2016 with 6. So, anyways, Deron Bland, I'm just trying to see if he's still healthy and in this game tonight. I think if he's playing, that definitely gives the Cowboys, a better chance. The only, I'm looking at the team interceptions both of these teams have had, and they both have not had many. Dallas has had 4 interceptions, which is, ranks near the bottom of the league. The Raiders have had 6 interceptions this season, defensive interceptions. So, the Raiders do have more interceptions than the Cowboys. If I'm not mistaken, I think Bland missed some time this season, but I don't see any injury designation on him as of today. So if he's available, man, I think, it's a possibility that we may see him get a pick six. Obviously, that's being ambitious, right? A defensive touchdown. But I do want to go look real quick, since I know that some people are interested in maybe a defensive anytime touchdown. What's the likelihood of that? Let me go look at the last time that the Cowboys and Raiders played each other to see if there was a defensive touchdown. While I'm doing that, JB, who do you feel like is the go-to guy tonight for this Dallas Cowboys receiving corps?
Well, man, it's obviously going to be as always something you got to never count out CeeDee. That's
What?
So you can't ever count out CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
They gave him the bag, everything like that. Ferguson, though, Ferguson's a very good one. But one that I think is you to be really on the lookout. I seen Dak Prescott came out in last week and had before trading him on, and had said that he was going to restructure his deal to keep uh, Pickens in Dallas.
What?
So I said, right before the trade deadline, Dak Prescott had told the press that he was willing to renegotiate his contract in the offseason to keep George Pickens around. So I think there's a lot of chemistry brewing with them guys. I think that's a good pick for this game. I go George Pickens and really go off in Ferguson.
Pickens. That's what I'm thinking too, man. Pickens. I like Pickens. And I think, statistically, I mean, based on these season statistics, CD Lamb over the 6.5 receptions seems like the best play. But overall, I think it's Pickens. He has played more games this season. He's gone over his receiving line in 7 out of 9 games this season, as I mentioned earlier. 55 plus receiving yards in 8 out of 9 games this season. He's had 53 plus receiving yards in 3 out of 3 career games against the Raiders. He even has a touchdown. But, in the last 5 games, there has been one defensive touchdown that these two teams have played against each other. The Raiders scored. It was a first touchdown. So, I mean, anytime touchdowns for defense is always, pretty tricky. There really hasn't been many interception touchdowns this season in general. And then fumble recovery touchdowns, there really hasn't been many. I don't think either of these teams, the Cowboys nor the Raiders, have a fumble recovery for a touchdown. Interception touchdown, do any of these teams have? The Cowboys have 1. The Raiders have 0. Hey, man, but I think if there's a game where DaRon Bland can do it, it's against Geno, who loves to throw those interceptions. I mean, Geno Smith this season. Dak has thrown – how many games did Dak throw an interception this season? 4 out of 9. 4 out of 9 games, Dak has thrown an interception compared to Geno Smith, who's thrown an interception in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 9 games this season. And he's also had 2 games this season where he's thrown 3 interceptions. So I think, with DaRon Bland being out there, there's a better chance for there to be a defensive touchdown. But once again, that's a little bit more ambitious of an ambitious play there. But what else were we looking at here? I think that about does it here for my notes. Let me see if I have anything else down here. Dak has played 2 career games against the Raiders. One of those games was in 2017, his second year in the NFL, and he threw 2 interceptions in that game. He also had a rushing touchdown, but then in his most recent game, he had 0 interceptions and 0 rushing touchdowns. That was back in 2021. So. Yeah, overall, guys, I mean, I do see the Cowboys, as I mentioned at the start of the show, with a lot of statistical advantages in this game. Basically everything. I really cannot – the main things that I look at, the red zone, third down, sacks on the quarterbacks, turnover differential advantage, Passing yards per game versus passing yards allowed per game, rushing yards per game versus rushing yards allowed per game. I don't see any advantages for the Raiders in this game in regards to that. But man, I got this weird feeling that Dallas, if they do win, they don't cover. I am a Cowboys fan. They've pretty much disappointed me my entire life. I don't see why this changes here tonight. JB, what's your final score prediction?
I got it 34. No. I got it 28. 13 Dallas.
34-13 Dallas.
28-13.
28-13 Cowboys. Give me 26-23 Raiders. 26-23 Raiders. And do I feel like this game is going to overtime? Their last one did. The Raiders won 36-33. So I'm basically taking 10 points away for both of those teams, saying it's going to be 26-23 Raiders. Does it go to overtime? How many times? I mean, they've only gone to overtime one time out of in 13 career or all-time games against each other. So the likelihood of that is slim. So let me just keep it in regulation. Raiders 26-23. Anyways, yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hopefully you guys had a great Sunday and are starting your Monday off right. We really appreciate the support and the Ivan says 17-10 Cowboys in the under, obviously. Yep, I'm leaning towards the under on this one too. Raiders win by 26-23. So sounds like, and then JB, you said 28-13. So it sounds like we're all leaning on towards the under here. But man, the Cowboys' offense is pretty good, and if the Raiders start scoring against the Cowboys' bad defense, man, that's the question, right? Are the Raiders going to score? I think they are. Maybe I am underestimating this total in this game. I think anybody can put up big numbers against the Cowboys' defense. Yeah, give me 26-23, leaning towards the under for some reason. Why am I leaning towards the under in this one? I think you guys are just kind of convincing me that the Raiders' offense is terrible. I mean, I don't think it's that bad against this bad Cowboys defense. But we'll see, man. We'll see. Yeah, thanks for the support, everybody. Thanks for everything, the subscribes and follows. We appreciate you guys. Once again, thank you to the sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the NFL and MLB Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. Also, we talk on the air with you guys. But if you're interested in sports picks, I mean, we talk about this stuff and we make our best educated guesses. But, if you're interested in the parlay picks, which I'm not a fan of, but I'm not here to judge you. If you're a fan of the parlays, more power to you. Maybe that's been working for you. Or maybe it hasn't been, and you're interested in somebody else's picks. We have a guy, Southgate, here with the Not Move podcast, who offers picks for $9.99 per day, $49.99 per week. And I hear he's pretty good at what he does. So if you're interested in that, that information is going to be in that QR code up at the top left-hand corner of your screen. Same with all of the other sponsors information, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, W Energy Drinks, so on and so forth. JB, did you want to elaborate on anything about the sponsors or if you're available there, JB? sounds like he might be busy. So, yeah, anyways, if you guys have any questions, feel free to send us a message. And thanks again. I hope you guys have a great day and good luck. Not moved. Out.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Moved Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.